All right, welcome to First Watch Rewatch, The Wire, Season 1, Episode 9.
Game day.
Game day. We start off with a cold open, right, with a kid playing basketball. I guess he's at junior college.
Yep. Looks like junior college or a community college, something like that.
Yeah, and just doing some drills with the coach, kind of setting him up, and Omar is the topic of conversation between Stringer and Avon, and basically a continuation a little bit more of what they were talking about in their office last episode when Avon had offered up the bounty for $10,000, and Stringer's keeping on him a little bit more, like, hey man, let's lay low, let's wait, let's let him get comfortable, then we're going to get him. And exactly what you said last time, Avon almost says that exactly, like, how's that going to look, you know? Meanwhile, like, this guy took all my stuff. How's that going to look to everyone else if we don't do anything about it?
Mm-hmm.
So it does.
Good point too, because like part of running the drug business is a perception, right? You can't make people think that you're open business, like that they're going to come and steal from you. So I get what you're saying.
And they're also now going to be paying this kid for his services. We don't really know what until a little bit later. It turns out to be for basketball. But $10,000 is what they're paying, and the kid takes that, and then of course the coach, because they have a little bit, another $5,000 I think to him, something like that. But that's our start. And any thoughts on that?
It was just interesting because I didn't know where they were going with it. So that's my only thought. I was intrigued as to where the storyline was going.
Yeah, it took a while for them to get into it too. First one kind of like that, where it's almost Breaking Bad style, where you get this cold open, you have no idea what it's about. Just a way less ominous purpose than what Breaking Bad would use something like that for.
Yeah, it's not like a eyeball floating in the pool. Yeah.
Exactly. So the quote is, "Maybe we won," from her. Again, for that same scene, it's all tied together there. D'Angelo talking to Wallace. This is coming off of Coot telling D'Angelo, "Hey, you should talk to Wallace." Wallace tells him he's fucked up, and D'Angelo's trying to tell him, like, it's not on you. And Wallace tells him, "I don't want to sell drugs anymore." He wants out. And D'Angelo and him talk about going back to school. We find out for sure that Wallace is 16. And he's going to have to start back in 9th grade if he goes back to school, which at that point he should be going to like his junior year.
And I was also excited about the return of Bodie. Bodie came back, didn't he?
From where?
Well, I guess on screen, because we haven't seen him in the pit in a while. So we haven't seen him like in the pit. He's been at home, he's been locked up, and he was in court, I believe. But now he's back in the pit.
Oh, we haven't seen him since he actually legally came home.
Yeah,
and got beat up by Carver and Herc on the sidewalk.
Yeah, second time, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So D'Angelo is really supportive of Wallace going back to school, even though the numbers are off a little bit, and gives him some money, tells him he doesn't have to do anything for it. So it really does seem like he's taking like a big brother approach.
Yeah, Wallace really does care about him and isn't necessarily invested in his drug career as much as just his personal well-being. So.
And even tells Wallace, "You got a good heart." The detail intercepts a pickup that's happening at the towers. Last time this happened, this was the money coming out for last episode for Day, the $20,000. So they say something else is coming out. So D'Angelo doesn't tell anyone about Wallace. Poot and Bodie doesn't tell them what they talked about really, and just that he's out. Right? It's just, don't worry about it. So continuing, much like he did with those low level ones that he thought were stealing money. He doesn't tell the rest of the crew like what's going on, so that they don't have to suffer any repercussions.
Yeah, he protects the soldiers.
Herc and Carver are doing actual work. They find a payphone and page D'Angelo so that D'Angelo can go to it, and they take a picture of him, photograph him, of using the actual payphone. And this is the PC that they can use for a new wire. So it's like they've actually learned a tactic here.
I know they're learning, man, and they're getting better. I was proud of them.
The show never like really says that someone told them to do this or it was someone else's idea. It just seems like, and they kind of take credit for like the good work that they found it. So, and this is what Freeman essentially does in the very beginning episodes to get D'Angelo's number and to find out about the payphones is to make a prank call. And that's what Carver does. So now we get testers. We're just kind of hanging out in the pit. And this is the first time, speaking of time passing, this is the first time Johnny has seen Bodhi since he got beat up.
Yeah. And you can tell he's very apprehensive to even be in his face again. Whereas Bodhi, I might not even remember what this kid looks like. Maybe he does because it's one of the only white people in the area. But still, it's like Bodhi's not thinking about him.
Yeah, a fiend is a fiend. In that case, Johnny's probably just business to him. And so they're handing out the testers. And I don't know the whole way that I've never really seen this before. I didn't know really before the show like what testers was when they were talking about it before last episode. Testers are coming out. I didn't really get it, but they're just basically just throwing out drugs.
Yeah, it's a sample sale is what it is. I'm not gonna lie, that scene was just really sad to see, when he threw it up in the air and they all scattered like pigeons over it. Like it was sad to see. And I'm glad they showed that side of the drug game so far because they showed the pursuit of the criminals. They showed the cops and robbers angle of it, and they showed the legal side of it. But they're getting more into like the sadness of it and seeing these drug addicts. Like, I know we have Bubs, but Bubs is more on the cop side. So this is more on like the human side of stuff.
Yeah, and really, we talked about before when Stringer talked about how bad the drugs, how unpotent or whatever the drugs were, and the way they kind of talk about the way Bodhi talks about violence and the lack of respect that they kind of have for them. And this is it personified, or, we're seeing it in front of our eyes as far as making them crawl on the ground. But at the same time, they are giving away free drugs to persuade them, to tempt them to come back and pay more for these drugs next time. And that's where Bubs sees Waylon from the AA meeting. And when we saw Waylon, he was only 24 hours clean at that point, and he was pretty down on himself, talking about his bottom. But now it seems like he's actually been clean. And he's there to get, I think, his nephew off the corner.
Yep, his nephew was there for the testers, and he was like, how he hasn't hit bottom yet.
Got to see the bottom.
Feels it.
Got to see that bottom. And it does seem like, Bubs, Johnny has no time for it, but Bubs listens. He's listening to what he says.
Yeah, Bubs wants to turn his life around. He probably doesn't have the will to yet, per se, but you could tell it's a desire of his. So, based off of this, with the last couple scenes.
While McNulty is running the sting to get Weebay and the money, Freeman is teaching Prez and Sidner how to track money. And we have a new board, a new crime. It's not a crime board. It's like a corruptions board.
Yeah.
And they turn the crime board around, and he's basically telling them and us, and we're getting to see it happen as the description is going on, basically of how you track properties and businesses and people's names who are signed to pieces of paper legally, and tracking cross-referencing. And so he's teaching almost how his brain works to Prez and Sidnor, and Prez loves it. And it's working, right? As he's saying it, we're seeing that there are actual names and businesses that are all associated that are actually part of this. So we know that this thing's going to have legs to it.
And there's some characters that we know and are aware of, like Orlando, on the names of some of these businesses too. So
right is the front on the liquor license. And so Freeman is looking at campaign financial reports. We know that Day was a senatorial aide. And so while Sidnor and Freeman are looking at strictly the businesses that maybe are in the Barksdale organization, Freeman's looking at the political corruption.
Yeah.
We don't know really much about that at all yet.
No.
Herc and Carver stop Weebay and Savino. They take the money. That's a fun little back and forth.
Now, what do you think about them doing the exact same thing they got in trouble for?
Well, it's interesting because there's no power with Wee-Bey and Servino. It's strictly drug. I wonder if that was anyone else making that drop other than Ashley Larry for Senator Davis, would they've had to give the money back?
No, probably not. It's
So
that politically involved or something.
Yeah, they caught Little Man driving that money to the offices and stopped him. They wouldn't have had to give it back, but because it was a senatorial aid, so I think in this case, no one's going to come to the defense of Wee-Bey and Servino in this case to say we need to have that money back. And as they say, what money? You pretended to take some shit out the truck that we didn't even know was there.
Mm-hmm.
I love Wee-Bey.
Wee-Bey is really smarter than I thought he was.
Street smart.
Yeah. The way he handled him getting shot, like his quick explanation to the police, or not the police, the hospital.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no charge, of course. We go to Bubbles fishing out drugs out of the baggie of drugs with a fishing line and a hook.
That is a tense scene, man, because he is seconds away from getting caught as he does.
Yeah. So he's on top of the building. He's dropping the line in. He hooks the drugs, pulls it up, and you're just like, come on. Just as he gets the bag up, the guy looks and sees this kid's a moron, right? He's looking side to side where it going to take him to the very last second to finally look up, but no one sees who it is. You would think that Bubs is known around the neighborhood, but no one sees who it is. Mm-hmm. And so there he runs, and as the dealers are running, they just run into some unlucky person and beat the shit out of him.
Yep, just because he's wearing a hat too, like Bubs was. Mm-hmm.
And this is like a change for Bubs you see here as far as just what he had to just go through. I mean, he's done other shit, even with the Copper House thing that they did. I mean, this didn't look fun for him. He looks scared as shit.
And he looks guilty for getting that guy beat up.
That's true. Kirk and we go to the drugs in the actual house now. Bubs and Johnny are doing the drugs and they're vacant. Kind of feeling good at first about the plan working, but as time starts going on, they realize these yellow tops, and we've heard this again, time and time again, they're nothing. They're just spiking it with stuff, and Johnny notices it, and Bubbles notices it, and when Bubbles just thinks about all that he just went through, and you've got a giant bag of drugs, and they're no good.
And it's not even, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not even that these were drugs that were like low quality or cut or whatever. It seemed like it was just pure baking soda from what Johnny said. Like it wasn't even drugs. They just got fucked for all that. So.
Yep. And yellow tops, right? And that's what they were. And so they are Avon's stuff.
Is it though? I don't know. I guess I was assuming a lot, but I was assuming this was like a rogue dealer who was selling baking soda, you know what I mean?
Oh, maybe.
Because I mean, we know Avon sold stuff, but it's still heroin or whatever it is. It's still drugs. It's not.
Yeah, that's right. It's a pretty stupid setup for Avon.
That too. There you go.
Even drugs in a bag in a tire.
In a tire you're right. So I didn't even think about how stupid. Yeah, they wouldn't let it be set up that dumb. So yeah, I think this is a rogue operation.
Yeah, but it did nothing for them, and Bub seems tired.
Yeah.
So Carver, I almost said it again, Curver and Hark.
You should find an acronym for them or something, or like a compound name, like
Charver.
Bethany, or not Bethany, Benifer or something.
Carver and Hark are bringing back the bag that they got from Wee-Bey, and the bag breaks. The bag breaks in the trunk, and they grab the money out. Herc talks about, tipping almost, how much will Wee-Bey tip? And Carver knows exactly what he's thinking already. And he tells him, you'd be pretty smart if it wasn't a wire. And he has to basically explain it as what Herc is hinting at is we should take some of this money. And Carver says, imagine, we take, we turn in $20,000. And then they're listening to the wire and they find out it was 30. And Herc never really thought of that. And so they kind of squashed that plan. So we thought. we get a whole new. Now we actually are seeing the whole new crime board.
Yeah.
Right. And Daniels, he's basically explaining where everything goes, how everything's starting to play in, what they found out. Daniels doesn't really seem to want to move forward with this. He's kind of throwing in roadblocks as far as, don't we, kind of have other stuff. And McNulty now wants to get a payphone wire on the payphone that Herc and Carver took pictures of. And that just sets Daniels off. And
another 60 days.
Another 60 days. And y'all was like, isn't this what we're doing? Isn't this the police? Isn't this the job? And Freeman has to tell Jimmy, like, give him some time. He's almost coddling Daniels, the superior in this case, to give him time to come around.
Well, I think what he's doing is he knows what it's like to be in the shit house, and as a black dude in the shit house. So I think he's just like, hey, cut him some slack. That's how I took it, at least.
Yeah, it's true. Omar has a smart little setup, right? He's going to his hideaway spot, and he puts some gum. I feel like I want to start doing this place and try it. Puts a little piece of gum on the bottom so you can see if it's actually, the seal's been broken, and hasn't, so he knows that it's safe to go in, which is an important detail to just point out that not in the Hollywood sense of, I just know it's safe. He's being very careful. Yeah,
it shows how the tactics he has to take as a lone agent in this world to be safe. Yeah.
Carver and Herc are listening to Poot have phone sex on the wire. Prez tells them this is all about like procedure, basically, and that almost trying to spell out why we should feel better about police not listening to phone calls when they have wiretaps, especially on payphones. And the idea is that if you can't justify it, you have to turn it off. Besides the fact that someone has to see it taking place, your target there, you're not talking drug talk. They can't just sit on the phone no matter who is on it. And after 90 seconds or whatever, they don't turn it off. Press tell them you got to. And Poot says that he's stopping by to see Wallace because Wallace is still fucked up. The guys want to classify it as pertinent, but McNulty tells them the same thing as Prez. Like, you can't. You got to justify being able to while you were still on the phone that long.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting considering where we go later with McNulty and the rules of the wiretap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So next we go to Omar in the pit, walking through, and this is just classic Omar, right?
People are running, he's whistling.
With the gun.
That's your presence, yeah.
And basically everyone's telling them for him, Omar's coming. Omar's coming. Rich, remember what I said in the first, that's what I wanted to call it.
That's what we should call it now, I get it, yep.
And it takes 9 episodes to get there.
But yeah, man, he just walks with his shoddy and everybody clears house, runs away from the big bad wolf.
Exactly. I was going to say the big bad wolf. And he says, I'm going to huff and puff, blow his house down. Tells him, I will keep coming back. Just throw the stash down. Just throw the stash down. And it takes a little bit. It's tense. And eventually, it's funny. His back is turned. He's not pointing a gun. No one even attempts to shoot him. And I don't know if Omar knows that they don't have firepower, because he says we're in here with the big gun, and he says, I think not. And it's funny. I wonder if he even knows what kind of arsenal they actually even have, and if it's not enough to even hurt him.
Yeah, and then considering there's a 10K bounty on his head now, right?
And he's just out there.
Yeah, so I think I take that as there was something with the timing. He knew when to do that exactly, or whatever, or he's been sitting on it, like you mentioned before, that he's very observant. So I think he's strategic, and he wouldn't have done that if Weebay and Avon, or Avon wouldn't be there. But if Weebay and somebody else, a soldier, was there, I don't think he would have done that.
Yeah.
Steve, D'Angelo, whatever.
We see Freeman and Kima grab up Shardene.
Yep.
And kind of talk about how they want to do it, and they basically
feels like a weak link to me, man. I just never expected her to hold up under any kind of pressure. So,
and we talked about it, and I said that I'm always suspicious of new characters, and when characters start learning too much information.
You did say that, yeah.
And not because I was trying to allude to the fact that that obviously the Baltimore Police Department's going to put Shardene into play here and asking about their operation, whatever she can do to help. But it just seemed like that's the obvious reason why you don't tell people stuff.
Yeah.
And we talked about how stupid D'Angelo was for just telling them everything right away. And in this case now, it's almost, like you said, a weak link. And so now we go to Herkencarver. Poot sees Wallace, cop. He's just kind of following Wallace to see where he goes and sees him get something, asks the guy, and confirms that he's definitely using Herkencarver on the rooftop, and everything now is very quiet in the projects, and they can't figure it out. Back at the police station, Shardene is kind of fawning over Lester Freeman's furniture.
Yeah, she definitely likes it.
And she says, it's kind of sad. Seems kind of sad that he just sells the furniture. Doesn't keep any for himself. He doesn't even have like his own display or a house. He just makes these pieces and then ships them off. What do you think about this assessment of Freeman?
It added a layer of sadness to him that I didn't know was there because he didn't disagree. He kind of it was almost like a revelation what she said to him. So I don't know. It was interesting. There's something there. There's a string there that they're pulling at.
All right. So then we get Bubbles now, following up on just being tired, and he's going to his sister. He's got a sister that lives in the neighborhood somewhere, and has a kid. So Bubbles is an uncle.
I'm assuming like Bucks County or up from wherever in County or something.
And it seems like they've been through this before. And he asked his sister for a place to stay. He's trying to get clean. And the sister doesn't really say anything. And then last minute gives him a key, says he can go to the basement. But if you come upstairs, I'm going to call the cops. So he's got a chance now. Bubbles has a chance.
And that's his plan, huh? To try to get clean at his sister's, you think?
So it seems like, at least I guess the first step is get off the street. But, he's had the conversation with Waylon about seeing that bottom come up at you. It looked like he was feeling bottom when the plan, got him these bad drugs.
Yeah, that felt like bottom for him, I think. Yeah.
Like I said before, he looked tired and looked like he hit his limit, really.
Yeah.
So now we get to find out what's going on in the neighborhood. There's a big basketball game that's happening.
Yep.
East versus West projects. And this is our introduction to Prop Joe. And Prop Joe is on the east side, and Avon, of course, is the west side. And Herkencarver are watching the game, and they meet up with Poot and Bodie. They see Poot and Bodie, or Poot and Bodie see them. And we find out that this is like for bragging rights, and for the loser has to throw a party for the other side. And we find out through Avon and Prop Joe's conversation that there's actual money involved in this as well.
Yeah.
And this is the most, this whole scene with them is the most like animated I feel like we've gotten to see Avon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's why it's one of my favorite episodes and favorite scenes. Just this and what happens with the cops later on. I just really enjoy seeing Avon finally out. He's been hidden for so long. And that's what the cops almost realized. We've never seen this guy. So we get back of the detail again. We're kind of going back and forth between this and the game. Freeman and Kima are asking Shardene questions. She kind of claims that she doesn't really know anything. They decided, that they're going to push her to break, and they take Shardene straight to the morgue to see her friend's body.
Yeah, and that's a tough moment for her. That's like, that was hard. Yeah.
She's crying, and she basically gives it all up that she even knew that this girl was missing, and that D'Angelo told her that. It seems like D'Angelo gave more information to them, and I maybe we skipped that, I guess.
So who gave the information to her? To Shardene?
Yeah, we skipped the scene with D'Angelo and Shardene at some point, but there was a conversation. What happened between the two of them was that Shardene was asking, "Have you seen my friend?" It's obviously this girl that died at the party that happened at Little Man's house.
You're right, because
the episode before.
Party. It was, yep.
And D'Angelo claims that he doesn't know, but and I remember like writing this somewhere, is that he's got a horrible poker face. He starts freaking out. He's like eating everything in the refrigerator, just like throwing food down his mouth. And he's talking about, I need to get out of this game. This game isn't for me.
He goes into the conversation right after. Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, people scheming, and he's just like freaking out about the life that he's chosen, basically. And Shardene says, you know, do something else. And he says to her, well, do you like doing what you're doing? You do something else. And it ends with sex, or them starting to kiss. And that's when D'Angelo finds out that Stinkham's been shot.
Dead, yeah.
So it's the morning after. It must have been from the last episode. And so in reaction to all this, his backstory now, Shardene, when she sees, she kind of cries and calls him a lying motherfucker, and says that D'Angelo told her that they took this girl dropped her off at the hospital. So he must have said that she overdosed.
Or that she wasn't feeling well. He said she wasn't feeling well.
Yeah. That's it, yeah. And they confirm, the coroner confirms what you talked about last episode, as far as, you know, it looked like Wee-Bey date raped her, but it turns out that they all did.
Yeah, and now here's the distinction, right? When they say they found 3 semen samples or whatever was in her, I think Shardene thinks that D'Angelo was one of them.
Good point.
So I think that's part of her devastation. So,
yeah, and imagine at that point what's going through her mind, if this is the guy and this is the type of thing that he's capable of.
Yeah. Which helps Kima and Freeman Turner. So
it does. We go back to the game again, where Poot mentions Avon, and that's when they finally catch on that Avon's at this game, and Perk just being a shitty cop. Just he radios in. They ask who, you know, do you know? And he just, black guy, has no idea. They've had, you know, this one picture, but he can't figure it out. And so, of course, your guy Sidnor has to come out and save the day.
He finally did something, man.
He knows what he looks like. He finds Avon at the game, and they ID him, and this gets Daniels like all excited. And it's almost like he's forgotten everything that they've been learning along the way, as far as what makes this case, how to do it. Daniels just wants to follow Avon, wants to see where he goes. And I don't know, what did you have an expectation at this?
I mean, I just do know that Daniels' kind of motivation is different from McNulty's, and it showed that scene, and that how it played out showed that. McNulty's like, so what if he's out there? He's not committing a crime. Why are we wasting our time? And Daniels is like, we've been chasing this guy. You don't want to get a good look at him. So he's motivated by ending this case, whereas McNulty is motivated by solving the case. So.
Yeah, and almost like brags about it too. Like in narcotics, we follow suspects, and I don't know if you thought that like Avon was going to go make a drug deal after this.
Right, like you're following him for posturing, basically. So,
but much like the bust at the pit a few episodes ago, McNulty sits out, but the rest of the team goes, which ends up being pretty interesting when it comes to the wire and some of the ethics that come up. But we go back to the game again, and Prop Joe is now upping the wager. Fun back and forth between them, talking about Prop Joe's clothes. And we decided this is going to be a 6-figure deal. I guess they've doubled down. Maybe it was a $50,000 bet. Now it's a $100,000 bet. And Avon's got his ringer in the game. And as soon as they make the bet, Prop Joe kind of gives a sign at halftime. And this guy from down the bench takes his warm-ups off and comes into the game. Yeah. Sidnor, this is where Sidnor actually IDs Avon. And during this, they're back at the detail, and McNulty is going to put Sidnor down for a call that comes in about the main stash.
Yep.
And I mentioned it earlier, but we had just gone through these rules as far as not only do you have to have somebody, not only do you have to have drug talk to justify listening for more than 90 seconds, but we learned early on someone's got to be on that rooftop to say our target is there.
Yep.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, McNulty lies and says that Sidnor was out there even though he was out with Daniels, just so he could justify that piece of audio.
And Prezvaluski is the guy that almost has the problem with this now.
Yeah, and if I'm McNulty, the way I'm looking at it as like, man, I have the high road over you. You're a disgrace. You're only here because of your father-in-law. So like, you should have been fired 3 times over. So what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah. So back at the game, Avon loses.
Yeah.
Prop Joe's ringer was too much for Avon's ringer. But it's like a weird non-foul call. And it's this awkward moment where Avon confronts the referee, and everyone's kind of looking like, oh, what's going to happen? And the ref is scared. And oh, what would you like to happen, Mr. Avon? Would you a redo? He's talking about a redo, baby. Are you getting above the rim flashbacks?
I haven't seen Above the Rim. Sorry, I have never seen it. But right. I mean, that scene, right? I put myself in the ref's shoes and how I would handle that, and Avon talking to me in that scenario, and what would I do? That's what I felt in that scene. So I felt what
would you have done?
I don't know, man. I have no idea. I probably would have done the same thing he did.
But it's not a problem. It looks like Avon just likes the sport of it, because he tells them you're not supposed to just take shit from anyone when you're the ref. You're almost
right. And that's what I'm reacting to, because I'm like, bro, you're Avon Barksdale. You're telling me I'm supposed to bark back at you?
Yeah, and that's what he tells him. Like, you're the ref. Don't take shit. Put your whistle in your mouth and walk away. He tells him walk away. He gives the ref an out to not disrespect himself for this neighborhood game. So I just thought that was really interesting. And so now Avon's going to have to give the barbecue for the East Side. Mm-hmm. We go back into the detail, and Shardene is basically spilling her guts on everything that she knows, and she wants out, and Freeman is just kind of coercing her to say, just need a little bit more from you. Can't quit just yet. So now it looks like Shardene is in with the cops.
Yes.
As an informant.
Yeah.
Daniels and his team are waiting for Avon. They're trying to track him. It's this fun cat and mouse game with radios and going back and forth. And
is it a cat and mouse game, or is it only the cat? Because I think
the mouse
in circles. So
the mouse is there, just the mouse isn't going for any cheese. The mouse isn't even hungry.
Cat's playing with himself.
Yeah. And it's exactly like what McNulty says, and Avon makes them look foolish, I thought.
Yeah, he really does, and I wasn't sure if that's what was going on, but then as it escalated, and as like he's on this block, now he's on this block, I'm like, okay, he's playing them. Like,
did you think anything was going to happen at all? No.
I just didn't know where they were going with it. Like, they were following him to what end? So I'm like, either it's going to be some sort of revelation that's going to help the case, or Avon's going to show that he's not the typical drug dealer, and you guys shouldn't treat him that way. So it ended up being the latter. So.
He wasn't going to college.
I mean, Avon has had more screen time in the last couple episodes than ever before, because he's dealing with this Omar situation, and he also is aware of the police surrounding him and his organization. This was almost his proof that, they're actually following me. I saw him face to face and gave him a little. So I wonder what that means for him now as he moves forward. He's got confirmation that the cops are looking for him.
Because you're paranoid doesn't mean someone's not out to get you.
Mm-hmm.
So now McNulty says, we also get to see Freeman and McNulty exchanging their statuses. And Freeman doesn't even flinch, actually. McNulty completely admits it. I forged the sheet for the intercept of the main stash. And it's really because, exactly like McNulty said, this is not how we're going to get him. But because Daniels took the entire team out, I mean, I don't know if Sidner would be on a rooftop anyway, but
somebody would have been.
Someone probably would have.
Herc, actually, we established that he was up there.
Yeah, and so he tells him, I fudged it because Sidner was out, and Freeman's just like, that's great. I made great progress today too. I got an informant. We get to see Bubs now in the basement with his key, and it looks like he's optimistic.
Yeah, hopefully he has some positivity coming to his story.
Back in the detail, McNulty kind of rubs it in their face a little bit with Daniels that they couldn't catch Avon, and he even says, I talked about last episode, he seems like into this shit. He says, I'm proud to be chasing this guy. Like, McNulty likes this. He likes the challenge.
Yeah.
Freeman explains to Daniels that the money is real. And in that mentions that they got $22,000 off the wire. And this is the money that Herc and Carver had handed in.
Right.
The money that Herc had pondered about, what if we just give ourselves a little tip? And Carver told him, don't do it. And when Freeman says 22,000, Daniel's number one. He looks scared to death, and it seems like he's connecting the dots of how deep this could possibly run and why they had to give the money back to the senatorial aide.
Right.
Now that they're finding out that Avon may be donating money to campaigns. But on top of that, he realizes that the money of the $22,000 is not what they got from Herc and Carver. They got 15. And Daniels is going to confront him on that. And Herc says to Carver, I wouldn't steal and not tell you. But Carver doesn't believe him.
Right. So they go on a search for it.
Did you believe him? Did you think
I felt like Herc's not that stupid. So I in the bag ripped earlier. So I thought to myself, that had to be it must have dropped somewhere. I didn't think they stole it.
It was such a minor little thing, like, bag broke, and then it's like, huh, what? And
so awkward, them walking with the money in their hands. I'm like, nothing's falling on the ground or nothing. So I did think that they dropped it or something somewhere. I didn't think they stole it.
We also get the fallout of Shardene and D'Angelo, where Shardene is packing up her shit. And again, D'Angelo, just a horrible poker face. He's freaking out, and she's not telling him. And I almost thought she shouldn't tell him. It wouldn't be safe to tell him. But she doesn't tell him how she knows, but says, I don't look like garbage to you, something you could roll up in a rug, which is what the cops told Shardene happened to her friend from the club at that party.
Yeah.
And D'Angelo knows right then and there that she knows, and the jig is up. But he doesn't know how she knows.
Right.
And he doesn't do anything.
D'Angelo was a part of that crime of covering it up?
Yeah. I do.
Okay.
I would just think he just seems like the underling in general.
Well, yeah, Weebay's got his own territory.
So I would just imagine that, they have to roll her up in a carpet, and he's got to be one of the people holding her. Also enough to lie and say that, we took her to a hospital or whatever he told her. Unless they just told him that lie, like they have lied to him about everything else, but
it's possible.
We also get Omar showing up at Prop Joe's. And so now we're, really a whole new character now in Prop Joe being brought into the fold. Obviously, I guess an East-West nemesis, right? They're geographical opponents. But I got the sense that there was a camaraderie a little bit between the two of Avon and Prop Joe. But Omar wants to give Prop Joe all of the stuff he just stole from Avon's stash.
Mm-hmm.
And what he wants in exchange is a phone number to reach Avon, his pager number. And he wants a code to an identifier to reach him as one of Avon's people. And so Prop Joe gives this to Omar. He gives him Avon's number and gives him Weebay's code.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Weebay of all people.
Thoughts at this point? This is like a huge development of...
I had no idea what Omar was planning at this point. I'm just curious. I thought he may be trying to make peace like Stringer was suggesting. They put that idea in my head. They planted it because Stringer kept reinforcing, let's make peace for now. Let's tone it down, de-escalate for now.
Yeah.
So I thought this might have been Omar's play to get a one-on-one conversation with Avon to broker some sort of peace. That's what I thought initially.
So it's 07, and we've been learning, like, I think 09 was D'Angelo, and so this point of the identifiers becomes a kind of important for how this plays out for Omar.
Yeah.
Herc and Carver find the money. The bag did break. It went into the wheel. They're relieved. Herc seemed a little hurt that Carver didn't believe him.
And also, they're kind of like, you think Daniels is going to believe us? That's kind of the next battle they got to think about.
Yeah. Weebay heads out for a food run at Orlando's, and this is when Omar pages Avon. He's outside the club. He's ready. He's at the payphone outside the club. Avon gets the page. And, back in one of the first episodes when they were talking about the payphone, and Freeman said it's a discipline. And we see it when Avon gets the call. And Orlando tries to give him the phone inside, and Avon says, "No, we got rules, right? It is a discipline. You can't use the phone that might be tapped. So he's got to go outside, and it's just right outside. But still, it's this rule that makes him go outside in the first place."
Right. So Weebay left to get some cheese fries for Avon. Avon got a page from Weebay. He goes outside to answer it, right, and to call him back.
And that's when Weebay starts pulling back up. Now, I think there were a couple page attempts before Avon actually came outside. So a little bit of time comes by, but Weebay comes back just as it's happening, just as he's trying to page him. And
cheese fries.
Yeah, got the cheese fries. And Avon looks right up at this hooded man, and it's Omar, who pulls a big gun out and just starts firing.
Yeah.
Avon ducks down. Weebay tells him, "Stay down. I got you covered." And there's a shootout between Weebay and Omar catches one.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Avon looks scared to me.
Nah, Avon looks very scared. And Avon knows that Omar is not anybody to play with. That he tried to assassinate him. So it's definitely not going to de-escalate, I don't think.
And Omar runs away at that point, but that's how we basically leave it with, I guess, Weebay getting even with Omar.
Oh, because he shot him back.
Shot him in the leg, yeah.
I never thought of that. That's true, yeah. A little rivalry there, a little sub-rivalry I never thought of.
Yeah. Thoughts on this episode? Questions?
No questions. I just loved it. The game was a nice little break in the usual.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
Yeah, it was just a different element to add to the show, break up what we've been seeing normally, which is drug transactions and stuff. My only thing, I guess, if we had to see who won this week between law enforcement, the Barksdale crew, and Omar, even though Omar caught one, I still think he won this week. He was able to not only steal a stash from the pit, from the organization, he made a enemy out of a common enemy, a friend out of a common enemy. And he got this close to taking out Avon. Like, that's huge. All those things, even though he took one, he got shot, but he still made a lot of progress in his goals, man. For him to get that close to Avon, to get the pager number, to be able to almost assassinate him like that, that's a W in my opinion.
He definitely infiltrated his crew and was able to learn, I guess, what the cops needed to learn. Took episodes to find out. I guess Prop Joe just told him the entire thing of what to do, how to do it.
Yeah.
But he really learned a lot of information about that. And it is scary how quickly or how easy he was able to touch Avon.
Yeah, exactly. Avon is the king, and he was able to touch him. Yeah. It's interesting. I can see an argument if you did want to make it for the Barksdale crew winning this week, because the law enforcement scene right after the game, him giving the finger to Daniels, that was a win. So you can make an argument for them too.
So we've got Omar as a winner then over both the cops and the streets.
Yeah, I mean, the cop win was flipping Shardene. That was a win for them.
Yeah.
But I just think Omar had the best week. So.
All right, so then the next episode will be Season 1, Episode 10, The Cost. And we'll have to see where this fallout happens now that, we know Omar is wounded. We know that there was no stringer. We know Shardene now is in play, but she's actually it sounds like she's going to be actively helping the police. So she's not going away, even though she's left D'Angelo. What's D'Angelo going to do about her?
He's got no bones about killing women. So
yeah, and he let her just walk out at first, I guess, in shock. So we'll get to see maybe more with that, and just the entire case in general will play out more. So
Did anybody, any RIPs from this week? No. Everybody made it out alive, right?
Everyone made it.
All right.
Yeah, because the girl was last episode, even though she's not a major character. Yeah, I guess everyone's okay.
All right, cool.
All right.
Well, sorry for that girl that got raped and killed. But besides her, everybody else made it.
Yeah. Congratulations to the West Side.
Yeah.
And welcome Prop Joe.
So we're close to the season finale. I'm excited.
So, yeah, there's 13 episodes.
13? Okay.
Yeah, in the first. So we got 4 more to go.
Yep.
So, all right, that'll be on the next episode of First Watch Rewatch The Wire, episode 10.
See you next time.
Later.